I didn't wait around. If whoever was controlling this enormous plane had been able to take control of my Quinjet and make it land, they could surely open its doors remotely. I took a quick look around the Quinjet, searching for something to defend myself with. I found one of Agent Romanoff's guns. The little ones with no safety trigger on it. At least the encounter with the Maximoff twins had taught me how to charge a gun like this one. Always the optimist, I joked to myself. I took the gun with both hands and pointed it towards the door. If I had actually learned something in the past 24 hours, that was that I had lost all my chill. I was going to shoot first and ask later. And, in the process, get a new plane. Preferably a non-hacked one. The door opened as I'd anticipated. I breathed out, ready to pull the trigger. He rose his hands, clearly shocked by me aiming a gun at his face. "Whoa there," he said. I lowered my arms. "Robert?" I whispered. Seeing him there confused me, and yet it made all the sense in the world. I instantly knew where I was. "This is S.H.I.E.L.D., I said. "Isn't it?" "Robert, why are you raising your arms?" A woman whose voice I quickly recognized asked as she came into view. She has a gun, ma'am," he explained. Maria Hill looked at me bewildered. "Kira, why do you have a gun?" she demanded. I thought you were kidnapping me," I half questioned. "What are you doing here? Mr. Stark said you'd be in the tower." "I'm not," Miss Hill stated. "Come on, I was waiting for you." I followed her outside. I was amazed at the size of the helicarrier. It was enormous. It looked like the ones that crashed on the Potomac some years ago, right when S.H.I.E.L.D. got shut down. "How did you hack the Quinjet?" I asked Miss Hill as we walked into the enormous ship. "I have access to its signature," she explained. "Working for Stark has its perks." "I'd imagine," I whispered as I looked around. She guided me to the main deck, from where 20 or so people controlled the helicarrier. They were seated on rows and rows of computers, all circling around the center of the room. There, 2 screens were laid as if to be used by someone standing between them. It was a pretty sick setup. When we passed close to them, I took a peek. They had general information on the ship, which got updated every second. None of the agent looked up to us. Everybody knew exactly what they were doing as if they had done it before, and they were focused on doing it. "Who are all these people?" I asked Miss Hill. "Friends of mine," she vaguely explained. I turned around, taking the whole room in. We were flying somewhere. Slowly, but surely. It seemed Maria Hill had a destination in mind. "What is this?" I asked aloud, but to no one in particular. "This," she said, taking a pause, "is S.H.I.E.L.D." "But S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore," I reminded her. "We don't," she agreed. "To the rest of the world, at least. For now." I breathed deep. This was a lot to take in. A secret agency that had collapsed years ago was now operating again in secret, and I knew about it now. This could only lead to trouble. "Why do all of this?" I asked. "And why show it to me?" "The boss thought it was time," she said. "Mr. Stark?" I asked, confused. Mr. Stark had kept all this a secret? I wouldn't put it past him. He certainly had the resources, but I wasn't sure about the motivation. Why would he keep this a secret when it had the potential to help so many people? He could have just made it part of the Avengers brand and no one would have questioned it. "Not Stark, no," she said. Now she had lost me. If it wasn't Stark behind this, who was? "Is this the one?" someone asked. I looked at him in silence. He was broadly built, a tall black man with an eye patch on the left side of the face. He wore all black clothes and, on top of them, a black leather coat worthy of the Matrix. I had no idea who he was, but seeing how Miss Hill reacted to him, giving him her tablet with, as far as I could peek, my file open, made me think this one was the boss.
"Kira Atwood,"
he said.
"You've been busy creating life."
"Accidentally," I muttered. In that instant, I felt insecure. I didn't know what he wanted from me, why he had brought me here. Did he want my help, or did he want to make me pay for taking part in the Ultron project?
"Want to get busy destroying it?"
he offered solemnly. I stared at him in the eye. "Yeah."
"Good,"
he said.
"Hill, get a team and go rescue Miss Harrington."
"Wait, you know where Leslie is?" I demanded, surprised.
"We have been looking for her since she went missing," he said. "We learned her location some minutes ago."
"I want to go with you," I told Maria Hill. She looked at the man, and after a beat, he nodded.
"Let's see how you handle yourself on the field, Miss Atwood," he said.
I nodded. Maria Hill left, and Robert followed her, so I took that as my cue to follow them. But I stopped and turned towards the man. "Who are you?" I asked. I hadn't caught his name.
"Fury," he said. "Nick Fury."
I nodded again. I was sure that that was a name I would hear again. I hurried after Miss Hill and caught her on what looked like a changing room. When she saw me, she threw a little black chip in my direction, and I made my maximum effort to catch it. I took a long look at it. It was a communication device. She was putting another one in her right ear. I mimicked her and placed it. She also grabbed a gun, took the charger out, checked if it had bullets, and pushed it back in. She then hung it from a holster on her belt.
"Do you know how to use one?"
she asked. The image of me trying to shoot the Maximoff twins came to mind. I shook my head. I was null with a gun. But I also remembered the Maximoff girl flying over me when I used on her one of the moves Agent Romanoff had taught me. "I think close distance is my thing," I offered. "Or behind a computer." She nodded.
"We can work with that," she said.
Still, she handed me one, which I hesitated to take.
"As a last resource,"
she told me. I took it and hung it on my belt, as she had done with hers. She guided me outside. It was really dark, but there were agents with reflective vests that showed us the way to another jet. It wasn't the one that had brought me here. I couldn't see that one anywhere. Maybe they had sent it back to the farm. But the new one that we were going to use looked almost identical. It occurred to me then that Mr. Stark may have taken the other one borrowed when S.H.I.E.L.D. disappeared. There were 6 other agents on the plane. One of them I recognized pretty quickly. "Owen?"
"Kira,"
he said, surprised.
"What are you doing here?"
"Me? I was kidnapped," I said. "What are you doing here?"
"I work here," he confessed.
"You know each other?" another agent asked him.
"Yeah, he's my trainer," I intervened.
"Trainer?" the agent repeated, happy.
"Eversley, I thought you said you wouldn't take another pup."
"I did," Owen agreed, rubbing his face. "And I won't. She's not mine, Langan. Hill can keep her."
"Come on, Owen,"
his friend insisted.
"You have to let it go. It wasn't your fault that Hydra got to Sean.
You are still a good SO. You should take her." Owen dismissed him and told me to ignore him and sit down. The pilot was about to come close to the door when someone else jumped inside the Quinjet. Robert.
"Sorry,"
he apologized to Owen's friend Langan.
"Thought you said in 10.
The older agent placed a hand on Robert's shoulder and sat him down.
"Just sit down, pup."
Robert blushed slightly and lowered his head to hide it. We flew for a couple of hours, passing by multiple time zones.
"We'll get to the drop zone in 20.
the pilot informed. Right, Maria Hill said, as she and the other agents gathered around a screen. She made a gesture to me, beckoning me over. Target is an old SHIELD base. It was abandoned when they shut us down. A lot of useless scraps were left there. Apparently, Ultron has found a use for them. He's making bodies. One of the agents, the one that seemed to be Robert's supervisor, said. The blueprints of the base came up on the screen, showing the best point of entry and where the different robots controlled by Ultron were. We were scanning the place looking for electrical signatures, and it was working perfectly. We even had gained access to their old CCTV. How many of them? Miss Hill asked. 25. All of them in the main building, he responded. As far as we can see, there's only one hostage. We assume that to be Miss Harrington. A photo of her came up on one side of the screen, and the CCTV showed the hostage. But the quality was bad. Still, I was sure it was Leslie. The second one of them sees us, the rest of them will know we're there, I said. They'll hurt her. Miss Hill nodded. We'll create a distraction, she said. Blow up one of these. She pointed to 2 barracks that were isolated from the main building, where Leslie was. Hopefully, that will draw some of them away. The mission is to rescue Miss Harrington. Engage only if necessary. Evans and Lopez, she continued. You handle the distraction. Hit them and go to the rendezvous point. Rezica, wait for us 3 clicks west from the barracks. Roger that, ma'am, the pilot Rezica said. Robinson and Langan, you're with me, she ordered. We'll get through the roof of the main building. Miss Harrington is supposed to be at the upper level. We go in, we get out. Do we bring the pup? Langan, Robert's supervisor, said. Yeah, she said. He could use the training. I stared at Miss Hill impatiently, waiting for her to call my name, to give me a mission. I couldn't wait on the plane with Rezica and just hope that the mission went okay. She must have caught my looks. Kira, you and Eversley need to go to the power center, she said, pointing to the upper right corner of the map that was now on the screen, showing the terrain. If you can render the power useless, they'll have to leave the base. How do I do that? I asked, feeling kind of stupid that I was the only one asking for details. You have the drive? She asked. I nodded. The base's power is controlled from there, she explained. A program is set to redirect the energy from a hydroelectric plant to different parts of the area. Most of them are farms that have their own generators, in case of an emergency. If you can't crack the program and secure it so Ultron doesn't hack it back, I want you to blow it. Owen grinned. We can manage that. I assumed he was a fan of things that went boom. They hit us close to home, gents, Maria Hill finished saying. Let's hit them back. You heard it, guys, Langan said, clapping his hands together. Gear up.